Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
Today we're continuing to talk about the picture of Dorian Gray. That's our work of literature that we've featured for the month of January. And we summarized that book as it was all about a painting and a young man by the name of Dorian who was kind of young and innocent. And later on he was corrupted and became a real mean guy and tried to destroy the painting but ended up getting killed in the end. That was not a happy ending, I suppose. But we're going to actually talk about the author himself today, the Irish author Oscar Wilde.
Yeah, he's kind of a fun guy if you don't know anything about him. I encourage you guys to look him up and read about some of his background. He's a great writer. He's famous for some of the most witty sayings that we have that have come from either his personal letters or his stage plays or even his books. So he lived at a period of time that was called the Victorian era, and they had very strict rules of behavior. But he kind of found this period of time to be kind of false, that people would pretend to be one way on the outside, but inside they were really rotten to the core. We learned to the core the other day as a phrase. Yeah, rotten to the core. They just had no good in them, but they liked people to think that they were, good people and righteous and just wonderful, when in reality they were, I was going to say they were poopy. They're just not good people. So today, we're just going to focus on his life and some of the messages also in this particular novel.
Okay, so let's get to it. Let's read the entire contents of today's lesson one time. The Picture of Dorian Gray was written by Irish author Oscar Wilde. He was one of the best-known literary figures of the Victorian era. In addition to this novel, Wilde also wrote poems and plays. He was known for his biting wit and ability to poke fun at the hypocrisy of British society. Wilde was jailed for gross indecency because he was gay at a time when society was prejudiced against homosexuality, and he died of a serious illness several years after being released. A major theme of the Picture of Dorian Gray is the fleeting nature of beauty and youth. Dorian's life is going well until Henry informs him that good looks are temporary. This causes him to view his portrait differently as well. Instead of being flattered by the painting, he sees it as a cruel reminder that he is aging. The restored state of the painting at the end of the novel suggests that although human beauty doesn't last, the beauty of fine art is eternal. The novel also criticizes the importance attached to appearances in Victorian society. Dorian is adored by everyone he meets, in spite of his poor behavior, because he's physically attractive. The other characters are treated similarly. Their outward appearances determine their success or failure in life. Another key theme is influence. Lord Henry manages to corrupt Dorian with his encouragement of a selfish life. Once Dorian adopts this mindset, his behavior becomes worse and worse. He eventually blames Henry for making him immoral. However, he never blames himself for corrupting other people. In the end, Dorian's refusal to take responsibility for his own actions causes him to lose control and leads to his death.
Let's jump in, guys. This is day 3 of our literature unit, Wilde's timeless masterpiece about temporary beauty. So the Picture of Dorian Gray was written by Irish author Oscar Wilde. If you haven't been to the country of Ireland, I suggest if you get the chance to go. It is so beautiful. The people are quite nice. They're kind. I think they're kind of like Taiwanese people to me. They're very welcoming. They're quite happy, and they have delicious food as well. Anyway, that's Ireland, and if you're from Ireland, we use the adjective Irish. So he's an Irish author. Now, he was one of the best-known literary figures of the Victorian era. The Victorian era is named for Queen Victoria, who was Queen of England for so long. She reigned as queen for decades, and she had her own ideas about how people should behave, what they should wear, how they should talk. And some of her rules were quite strict. So sometimes Oscar Wilde made fun of the rules of that time period.
That's right. So, yeah, he was very famous during that period of history. And in addition to this novel, Wilde also wrote poems and plays. So, of course, he wrote in different forms there. He wrote poems, okay, and he also wrote plays. I think his most famous play was The Importance of Being Earnest, which I believe we talked about many years ago on this program, if I'm not mistaken.
It was also made into a film, so you should look that up. It's really good.
Yeah, it's probably been made into a movie many times. But in any case here, yeah, he wrote poems and plays, which, again, are probably available free online. They're probably in the public domain now. And, of course, in his poems and plays and novels, he was known for his biting wit and ability to poke fun at the hypocrisy of British society. So here, wit means humor, being able to make people laugh, but wit is usually something associated with being very clever, of being very well-read. You have a lot of information, and you make jokes based on the information that you have. A lot of, say, uneducated people would probably not understand your jokes.
Yeah, I think what really bothered him is he was not part of the aristocracy, the upper class, and he felt like the upper class people saw themselves as better than other people, when in reality, they were worse than other people. They lived without many morals, so he liked to make fun of them. So yeah, if you have wit, or if you're witty, that's the adjective form. It just means you're really good at using your cleverness and your I think your education, and sometimes it's just somebody who's quite intelligent. You use that to make fun of other people. Here, we're using the phrase biting wit, which usually means when he made a joke, it was to make fun of somebody in a really clever way. Someone who thought they were a big deal, someone who were probably arrogant people who thought they were important, he would make them look silly and stupid.
And they would probably be angry as a result. So he had that biting wit, and also he could poke fun at hypocrisy. You could also say make fun of, and this is British society and its hypocrisy. Hypocrisy refers to when you do one thing but you say another, like you tell other people that, hey, it's immoral to do that particular thing, but then you do it yourself, okay? You're a hypocrite. That's the person, and hypocrisy is the act of doing that. The adjective is hypocritical, which is kind of long there, but hypocrisy, again, is the noun here. And yeah, British people were kind of hypocrites. They said one thing, but they did something else.
Yeah, that's pretty much politicians, right? I think we can make fun of them. Now, if you're a person who does this sort of thing and you're being hypocritical, as Tom said, we call those people hypocrites. So that's the noun form of this word, hypocrisy. So Wilde was jailed or put in jail for gross indecency. That was the name of the law that he broke. They actually had a law that was called for gross indecency because he was gay at the time when society was prejudiced against homosexuality. Yeah, if you were gay back then, you had to hide it because if people found out that you felt strongly towards your same sex, they would actually throw you in prison. So he was jailed for gross indecency because Wilde didn't care what other people thought, so he never tried to hide the fact that he was a homosexual.
Right, but he got caught by the government there, by the police, and they threw him in jail for being grossly indecent. I think one thing I can think about using the word indecent is if you go out in public and you take off your clothes, you might get arrested for indecent exposure, okay? So yeah, people don't really appreciate nudity in public.
Oh, wait, so if you go on like the Malcolm gondola and you take off your clothes while you're in the gondola?
Well, it might be
get arrested.
considered indecent exposure if you get caught or if somebody sees you.
That would be indecent.
I don't know who would be crazy enough to do something like that.
Crazy, I know.
But in any case here, yeah, he was jailed for this, being homosexual. And, of course, they called the crime gross indecency. And that was because he was gay at a time when society didn't really like gay people so much. They were prejudiced against homosexuality. You can't do that. It's against the rules of God. And, of course, later on, he died of a serious illness several years after being released. So he wasn't in jail for his whole life. It wasn't a life sentence.
No.
And he got out of jail and he lived for a while afterwards. But then he got some kind of serious illness, which we're not revealing here. We don't really know what it was unless we read about it. But yeah, he died of that disease a few years after that.
Moving on to the next paragraph, a major theme of this particular novel is the fleeting nature of beauty and youth, which is really important and why it's still a classic today, because as much as you want to stay beautiful forever, that beauty fades. Fleeting just means something that lasts a very short time. And we'll often use it to talk about happiness can be fleeting. You know, your beauty can be fleeting. You need to appreciate it while you have it. We're going to talk more about Dorian's life and some of these themes in the book. But first, guys, we're going to take a few minutes and listen to our Chinese teacher.
大家好，我是 Patrick 老师，欢迎大家回来继续一起学习 Unit7 第3天的课程。前2天的课程内容是在介绍 The Picture of Dorian Gray 这部小说的主要情节，而第3天的课程主要在介绍小说的作者以及故事主旨。这部小说作者是 Oscar Wilde， 华文译名王尔德。他是大英帝国维多利亚时代的文豪，出生于爱尔兰。根据大英百科全书，维多利亚时代 The Victorian Era 从19世纪跨越到20世纪，将近100年，约莫介于1820到1914年之间，与维多利亚女王一甲子的统治时期1837年到1901年大致对应，但并不完全等同。这个时代的英国国力鼎盛，社会繁荣富庶，但阶级分明，堪称世界上最富强的帝国，也留给后代相当丰厚的文化资产。回顾维多利亚时代，当代很多人对维多利亚时代的评价，或说刻板印象，会认为这个时期表里不一，存在许多矛盾，重视外在秩序，讲究外表服仪，然而却忽视了内在底层多元错杂的存在。请大家带着以上的基本认知去理解王尔德在那样的时代背景，他的创作与言行可能引起多少人侧目和非议。He was known for his biting wit and ability to poke fun at the hypocrisy of British society. 时至今日，王尔德仍然以讥讽妙语著称，善于嘲讽英国社会的伪善。然而，王尔德华丽璀璨的创作生涯却在41岁那一年戛然而止，因为同性恋情不见容于保守社会，和情人的亲密书信被当作呈堂证供，随后身陷囹圄。请看到第一段最后一句 He was gay at a time when society was prejudiced against homosexuality. 当时的社会对同性恋存有偏见 prejudice。 课文中 prejudiced 结尾是 ced， 这是过去分词做形容词的用法。请注意介系词要用 against 表示反对。此外 prejudice 是名词，和 bias bias 同义。比方说 There is widespread prejudice against pregnant women at the workplace. 职场中对于怀孕妇女的偏见相当普遍。另外，第一段有一个重要句型，段落结尾提到 Oscar Wilde died of a serious illness several years after being released. 王尔德在出狱后没几年就身染重病过世。请大家注意 after 之后的 being， 请把 being 圈起来。这里其实也是副词子句的省略。老师在之前的课程讲解过，主要子句与副词子句的主词指称对象相同时，副词子句的主词可以省略，后面的动词改成分词。未经省略之前的句子是 Oscar Wilde died of a serious illness several years after he was released from jail. 省略的步骤如下：第一步，去掉 after 所引导的副词子句当中共同指称的主词 he。第二步 ，be 动词 is 恢复成原形 be。第三步加上 ing 变成 being being。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, so again, we're talking about Oscar Wilde himself. He was jailed for gross indecency. He got out later and then died of a serious illness many years after he got out of jail or prison. And then we're back to the actual novel here, The Picture of Dorian Gray. And a major theme of this book is the fleeting nature of beauty and youth. Fleeting here just means temporary, as you said. Yeah, you're not going to be young forever. You're not going to be beautiful forever. So yeah, you probably better take advantage of it. If you're a young, pretty girl, find yourself a rich husband really fast because you're going to get average looking eventually and you won't be able to snare a rich man then. And there, of course, are other examples of the fleeting nature of beauty and youth. Like some people think that, hey, I need to travel when I'm young, because when I'm older, I may not be so interested in traveling. I may have too many responsibilities. So, yeah, some people decide to go traveling after they finish college, maybe for a couple of years, and then go look for a job. But, yeah, beauty and youth are fleeting. They don't last forever. So, again, back to the book here. Dorian, his life is going well until Henry informs him that good looks are temporary. Again, that's the fleeting nature of beauty and youth. Yeah, good looks are temporary. You're not going to be pretty and handsome forever.
So you could actually take this vocabulary word fleeting and substitute it for temporary, or vice versa. You could use either one of those. So this causes him to view his portrait differently as well. Instead of being flattered by the painting, he sees it as a cruel reminder that he is aging. Yeah, it's like, he's got this bad reminder kind of in his face all the time. If you're flattered by something or someone, it means you are receiving a lot of pretty insincere praise or compliments. Usually if someone flatters you, they want something from you. For example, some people will flatter their bosses because they want their bosses to like them or give them a raise. We had that phrase, flattery will get you nowhere, which just means people who are quite bright can see through the flattery and they don't buy it. So be careful about flattering people. He's flattered by the painting, or instead of being flattered by the painting, he realizes that all that painting does is show him that beauty is temporary and he's going to lose his looks as well. If you have a reminder, it's something that helps you remember something. For example, if I have to do something important the next day, I'll often write a note for myself and put it on my computer as a reminder that I need to get something accomplished or something done that day. There are lots of ways you can remind yourself of things. The reminder is actually the action or technique that is used to help you remember something.
The restored state of the painting at the end of the novel suggests that although human beauty doesn't last, the beauty of fine art is eternal. So I guess that's something to remember if we're depressed about getting old. At least remember that art is going to last forever. It's eternal.
Eternal. Eternal means lasting for eternity. Lasting a very long time. Fine art is really nice to have around because it doesn't really, age quickly. You can keep a painting for a long time, or a piece of sculpture is fine art. So it's kind of nice to have. Now, fine art isn't the graffiti that we see on the streets, guys. That does not count as fine art. Fine art is usually art that's sold in a pretty pricey gallery. Pricey just means expensive. Or, it could be sculpture, which takes a lot of time and effort to produce. Those are considered to be fine art. So, yeah, it's kind of sad that he didn't realize that or he didn't take advantage of the time he had and continue to be a good guy. Remember, he turns into this rotten, corrupt, heartless person. And it's not just his physical beauty that changes over time. It's his soul. His soul has become really black. So, yeah, the restored painting or the state of the painting at the end of the novel suggests that human beauty doesn't last, but the beauty of fine art is eternal, which you want to remember. In case you collect fine art. I don't have enough money to collect fine art.
It can be quite expensive indeed. And again, restored means to kind of return to its original condition.
True.
I know in our neighborhood here where the studio is, there are a number of old Japanese-style houses that are kind of falling apart, and they have restored some of them.
I love that.
They've returned them to their original condition.
Yeah.
And I suppose someday they may be open to the public, or they might become coffee houses. Who knows? Now, here in the next paragraph it says, the novel also criticizes the importance attached to appearances in Victorian society. Okay, so that's another example of his biting wit and his criticism of British hypocrisy. They attach a lot of importance to appearances. What you look like on the outside is the most important.
Dorian is adored by everyone he meets, probably because he's so handsome. Handsome people are often adored by people they first meet. If you're adored, it just means you're really loved, you're respected. People think you're great. You're sometimes even worshipped. Some celebrities actually are worshipped by their fans. He was adored by everyone in spite of his poor behavior because he's so darn attractive. Yeah, he's really handsome. So I think that sort of is sort of magical. Some people really put a lot of importance or place a lot of importance on physical beauty. But he was a jerk. You got to remember that. The other characters are treated similarly. Their outward appearances determine their success or failure in life. Yeah, whether you're handsome or tall or short seems to still determine your success to some degree, at least in Hollywood. It still matters in Hollywood. If you're very beautiful or handsome, you seem to have an easier time getting work.
Yeah, and of course there have been surveys. Tall people, yes, tend to be more successful. Like most of the U.S. presidents, for example, have been quite tall. So, yeah, it's actual fact there. But in some cases, though, it's not true. We should not judge people on their appearance. There are lots of short people who are successful as well. And another key theme is influence. Okay, how influential are you? Lord Henry manages to corrupt Dorian with his encouragement of a selfish life. So, yeah, that's a theme of this book. Influence. How do we affect the behavior of other people by what we do and what we say?
Now, remember, Lord Henry, he manages to corrupt Dorian because he encouraged him to just seek pleasure and live a selfish life. And once Dorian adopts this mindset, his behavior becomes worse and worse and eventually commits murder. If you adopt a mindset, it just means you start thinking and looking at things in in some sort of way that changes how you view life. Your mindset is just how you see things in the world. And if you adopt something, you begin to use it. Here, he's not actually adopting a pet or a child. He's just starting to start to follow a typical kind of lifestyle that is based on his mindset, that he doesn't have to worry about other people. All he needs to do is worry about making himself happy, which actually leads to bad behavior. He eventually blames Henry for making him immoral. He never takes responsibility for hurting other people. So Dorian's failure and Dorian's unhappiness, of course, he turns and blames other people for, which is, we see a lot of that today. Take responsibility for your own actions. Nobody's forcing you to be a jerk. Be kind, be nice. That's kind of what you should be learning from this book.
Yep, he blames Henry for him being immoral, and he never blames himself for corrupting other people. Hey, it's all Henry's fault. I didn't do it. And in the end, Dorian's refusal to take responsibility for his own actions causes him to lose control and leads to his death. Okay, so that's what happened to Dorian in the end. He died, but the painting lives on. And there you have it, our featured work of literature for the month of January, The Picture of Dorian Gray. Let's hear from our Chinese teacher one more time.
第二段介绍小说的主旨 theme， 主旨是美貌与青春的本质都是瞬间就流逝的。关于这一段的英文学习重点，请同学看到最后一句。The restored state of the painting at the end of the novel suggests that although human beauty doesn't last, the beauty of fine art is eternal. 请把 suggest 标示出来。老师讲到 suggest 有两个意思，当作建议后面加 that 引导的名词子句。请务必记得，主词不论第几人称，动词一律用原形，不做时态变化。比方说I suggest that everyone stand up from their desks and stretch a little bit. 我建议大家站起来伸展一下。Suggest 第二个意思意味着，课文里就是解释为意味着。肖像画在小说最后回复到了原本的状态，意味着虽然美貌不能永恒，艺术的美却永久留存。第三段揭示了小说反映出维多利亚社会极度重视外表，也提到小说另一个关键主旨影响。以 Lord Henry 影响 Dorian 为例，我们最后再看两个英文学习重点。第一个，在第一句，我们知道英文如果要说注重什么事情，同学通常会想要用 emphasize。然而第一句维多利亚社会非常注重外表，我们用 attach importance to 这个片语。A lot of importance was attached to appearances in Victorian society. 第二个重点是 blame， 在倒数第二、第三句 blame somebody for something。 他最后责怪 Henry 造成他道德沦丧，却不怪自己带坏别人。要注意 blame something on somebody 是另一个常见的用法。比方说 The key to success in leadership is to not blame your own mistakes on others。领导成功的关键是不要把自己的过错归咎到别人头上。我们今天的讲解就到此结束，拜拜。
That's all the time we have for this particular unit, guys. We hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. For more English Digest, we hope you'll tune in soon. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.